Yeah, we can.
Your play
We're going to talk about the play experience of Dragon Age. And here's the thing. I'm not necessarily saying with this that I think that it is a bad game because, like I said, I haven't played enough. I like judging games for myself. I don't want to like read someone else's opinion and be like, yep, it's terrible, it's torture, I fucking hate it. No, I want to play it, and I want to play it more, and I want to really formulate an opinion on it. But the thing to me is, I still think this would have been a better product if it wasn't a Dragon Age game. If they're like, nope, we made a different RPG, takes place in an original universe, all of this stuff. Because the thing that you've managed to do with this is that you've pissed off a lot of like hardcore Dragon Age fans, and you've created what is essentially, from my experience so far, not a Dragon Age RPG. And I don't think that anybody can argue that, because like, even if you like the game, I think you should be able to recognize that it is very much an action game. Like, you can call it an RPG because it has, you know, level up systems and all of that stuff, but it is very much a more action focused RPG, a more, you know, linear experience than what you would have in a traditional Dragon Age thing.
I would go so far as to, it's sort of like video game genring has become such a shit show, actually, because you get a lot of people that will say to you, oh, but Cyberpunk is an RPG. And then it's like, well, if Cyberpunk is an RPG and Baldur's Gate 3 is an RPG, we have a problem with how we label things. Because I would classify Cyberpunk much, much better as an adventure shooter. Where, yes, it has a phenomenal story. And yes, it has progression and all the rest of it. But it is mainly just you playing a very set story. There's some choice here and there, but for the most part, your choices don't really change that much.
Oh, I was under the impression they would in Cyberpunk. I was under the impression that stuff would massively change.
Nowhere near the level of Witcher 3. And even Witcher 3 had nowhere near the level of Baldur's Gate, right?
Yeah.
But it still had a lot more. There's been some updates in recent months where they've added new endings and stuff. But effectively, the only real choice you have in the game is at the end, where you get to choose the kind of ending that you want. And that opens a whole new hour or two playtime based on your choice.
Okay.
Right? So, yeah, it's not a heavily... it's not that great as an RPG. And I would put Dragon Age the Veilguard in the same spot. I would say it's a high fantasy adventure game.
Yeah.
Because your choices barely matter.
I've heard
most of it is just action adventure.
I've heard from Cowboy, who's significantly ahead of me. I think he's like 20 hours into the game at this point or something. Yeah. And Cowboy told me that there is like a massive decision fairly early in the game that makes like a massive difference. And I was like, oh, it'd be cool to see. But like the first real decision that we made. But although before we get into decisions though, I got a bone to pick. Okay, I got a real big bone to pick. And we're going to start right at the beginning. Character creator. How did you like the character creator? Because I've been hearing people just like absolutely glaze this content creator as like, this is a new standard. This is the best content character creator ever made. This is the best one. And I was like, all right. I go in there, and I'm not kidding. I had a terrible experience. And by the way, I'm not too demanding, as we will talk about. I'm not too demanding when it comes to character creators. Yeah. I don't need that much. I need some basic things, but I want to hear from you first. What was it like for you to create a character? What character did you make, by the way?
Some male-looking dude.
Oh, so you didn't make a Kunari? You didn't make handsome Squidward?
No.
Oh.
No. I just made a male character box standard. Look, it has a lot of bells and whistles and sliders, but so does almost every other game
but
these days.
I want to know, did you have a good experience with the character creator?
No.
Why?
There were a lot of sliders make such a little difference that I don't know what it changes really. It says it's doing this thing, but you slide it around and you go, what is it doing? I don't see a change here.
Okay.
Some of the sliders feel unnecessary. It feels like they just added it because there happens to be a muscle there on the human face. And it's like, okay, but we don't need to change everything, right? And overall, I still didn't feel like I actually had the ability to create the character that I would have wanted to create.
Yes. See, that's the problem. that is the problem that I personally had with the character creator. I wasn't able to make a character that I wanted. So here's the thing. I love playing as a dwarf, and there's not that many games out there, unfortunately, that let you play as a dwarf. Baldur's Gate being one of them. And let me tell you something, my dwarf in Baldur's Gate was amazing. And I could have made 10 different dwarves in there that I would have been super happy with, okay?
Dude, Baldur's Gate character creation is so much better than Dragon Age.
A million times.
So much.
So it's like, in Baldur's Gate, I could have easily made maybe even 50 variations of a dwarf that I would have been super happy with, because they did a really good job. In this game, I struggled to make one, and the one that I ended up making, I still don't like it. And let me explain to you why. So, dwarves, I want them to be fucking stacked, okay? They need to be short, they need to be ripped as fuck, and they need to be fat, okay? They need to be, it's a strange balance that you got to achieve, but they got to be fat and ripped at the same time.
Yes.
Okay? And I couldn't shape them up the way that I wanted to. I tried. No. I was like, listen, I want him to be fucking Johnny Bravo. I want it to be a reverse triangle. That's what he's got to be. Yeah. And I would go and I was like, okay, give me the broadest shoulders imaginable and give me the biggest muscles and all of that stuff. And then give me like a bit of a belly as well to kind of go with it. And when I was done with it, he's shaped like this. He's like a little egg. And I was like, why is my dwarf an egg? He should be an absolute block of concrete. Okay. So I had some issues with the way that the dwarf was shaped, but I was like, okay, I'll live with that. I'm going to have like bulky armor on anyways. Not going to be a big deal, right? And I'm like, all right, let's look at my dwarf's face. He's going to need a rugged face, like an aged face, like a veteran, you know, a dwarf who's seen some shit. He's been through some battles. And I kid you, I'm not exaggerating. People might think I'm exaggerating. You can go watch the beginning of my stream to see it, because I tried everything. Every single face is a pretty boy. Every single one. Yeah. There's no way there can be no blemishes on the face of my dwarf. There's not even a hint of like a regular, like a 5 o'clock shadow. Nothing. There's nothing in my character's face. He's perfect in every way. And I'm just like looking at this, and I was like, he looks like a fucking supermodel. Like, what are we doing? This is crazy.
Dude, you have to remember, your dwarf is a metrosexual male in 2024. Yeah. He wears makeup and he puts on moisturizer. Yeah. He takes care of himself with his little handbag or man purse.
My moisturized dwarf. But anyway, so I'm like, all right, he's going to be a pretty boy. It's okay. I can probably fix this with the hairstyle. So I go into the hairstyle and I was like, there's not a single like, unkept hairstyle. No, every hairstyle looked like my dude came straight out of a hair salon.
But the engine also, or rather the graphic style, the art style also makes it's so difficult to make a character look serious.
Because I'm gonna get you with that one. That's gonna be the good part. So, but anyway, so I'm like, I'm trying to make him, look, but he just looks like smooth, and he looks like what's that brand that the lady does, I think it's L'Oreal or whatever. It's like everything is like a L'Oreal commercial for my character. Yeah. And I'm just like, I just want an unkept long hair for my dwarf. And I was like, all right, I can't get that. Can we get some short hair that doesn't look like, no, you can't do it. And I was like, well, I want to see what the hair technology is like that everybody's like frothing at the mouth from. So I gave him like an elven ponytail. Okay. Do you have any idea what the insult it is for you to create a dwarf and give him an elven ponytail? All right.
Oh yeah.
And then I was like, okay, listen, I'm disappointed in the face. I'm disappointed in the shape of the character. I'm disappointed in the hairstyle, but the most important thing for a dwarf is his beard. They got to have good beard options, right? And I go in there, and there's literally one braided beard, and it's the most ridiculous fucking braided beard I've ever seen in my goddamn life. Because it's like, it cuts off in here, but then the braids go like here, and he looks like a tool. Those look like handlebars for doing blowjobs. Like, I don't know what to tell you, dude. It looked so bad. Dude, and I was like, I just want like a cool beard for my cat. Please, I had to give him like a flowing beard, like a wizard's beard on my dwarven warrior. And I was like, fine, whatever.
But dude, that's my.
But wait, because it gets worse. So then, as I'm doing all of this, and I was like, all right, so there's two more things that I want, and please just give me these things, okay? Listen, I'm a dwarf. Dwarves are hairy. He needs to have bodily hair. No, there's no bodily hair option. There's nothing.
Smooth femboy.
I was like, did my dwarf get a Brazilian wax? Like, what are we doing here? This is insane. So he's like, full wax dwarf, no bodily hair, and I was like, all right, okay, fine. I just want one final thing. The one final thing that I want, which is every RPG character that I always make in most games, they support you having like a scar over your right eye. And the reason I put a scar over my right eye is because
Harry Potter costume.
No, fuck you. it's because
I'm just taking a shot in the dark.
You see these glasses? This eye sees significantly worse than this one. So I'm like, okay, I want to have a scar over my right eye. And I don't know if the camera's reversed. So I don't want people criticizing, Rurikhan doesn't know his right from his left. Sometimes cameras are reversed, right? But anyway, point is, I always have a scar over my right eye. And most of the character creators, they allow it. Not this one. I was like, fuck me, dude. I just want a one single scar over nope. Can't have that. I had to go get like some fucking bear claw or whatever it was that does like a 3-scar thing on your eye because you can't move scars in this game. And I was like,
yeah,
we had this in Dragon's Dogma 1. In Dragon's Dogma 1, I could put a scar in my character's eye. Like, what the fuck?
But you see, this is where I sort of go, all of these people that glaze the character creation, I'm convinced
it's bad.
Have never played any other RPG in their lives.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk 2077 has a better character creation. Baldur's Gate 3 has a million times better. Dude, you can do anything you want.
Any Capcom RPG has a better...
Capcom games. There's so many games out there that has far greater character creations than this one.
But so here's the part where this is where things get really upsetting for me, right? So it's like, okay, you can't have chest hair, and I was like, all right, I get it. I can't have chest hair because it's like a design decision, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I can't have like an unkept haircut because you want me to be a pretty boy. Fine, whatever, because this is the design that you went with your game. Fine, I'll begrudgingly accept it. I start the game, and I kid you not, literally on the first fucking cutscene, you see Varric with a fucking deep V cut, and he's got Wolverine's chest hair. I was like, what the fuck is this? This isn't an art style choice. There's a character right there. And then I look at his haircut, and I was like, that's the one. Why can't I have Varric's haircut? It's right there. I was like, oh, God. I was so frustrated with the character creator, dude. I was like, what the fuck? I've never been so frustrated at making a dwarf in an RPG, literally ever. I hate the character creator in this game. It is terrible. Sorry. I don't agree. Like,
it's all downhill from there.
Oh, yeah.
For those of you that have not played it yet. You think, well, character creation is bad. The game gets better. No, it does not.
So here's the thing.
Combat.
I actually do like the combat from what I've played so far. I do like it, but I find it interesting.
Keep going.
That there's like all of these difficulty settings, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go into Nightmare. So I jump into Nightmare, which is the hardest difficulty, because I was curious since they're talking. Oh, we have all of these things, all of these sliders and things that you can configure and do all these things. Number one thing that I see there, defense timings. And I was like, you're really going to fuck with people's parry timings based on difficulty. I fucking hate when they do that. But to be honest, it's so easy to parry in the game that it makes no difference. So I die right on my first combat experience because monsters just deal a shit ton of damage. And I was like, okay, I'm still like acclimating, whatever. But immediately after that, I never died again. I never, in the 5 hours I played, never died. Not only I've never died, I was never challenged again. I was like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, this is the Nightmare difficulty? And I've already been told that, like, from people in my chat, they were like, yeah, and most of the difficulty will come from, you know, unfairly tuned bosses in terms of the sheer amount of damage that they deal and the sheer amount of hit points that they have. I was like, yep, I can see that that's going to be the thing. Yep.
Yeah. The entire game, I played just under Nightmare because Nightmare has this thing where you can't
go back.
Downscale once you're on Nightmare. And I was like, I'm not doing that. So I played the one just under Nightmare. Now, for those of you that don't know, I'm not actually someone that likes playing RPGs on difficult settings.
Yeah.
In fact, most of the RPGs that I play, normal or easy, I just want to see the story. I couldn't give two craps. I put this on the hardest difficulty. It feels like every other game on easy. Because the only thing that takes time is the fact that the enemies have so much HP. It takes so long for you to actually just get the shield down, and then even longer for you to start getting the health pool down. And then eventually you start unlocking some really cool abilities. So now you can start dealing the big damage, which against normal ads, big damage. Against any sort of boss ad, wait, noodle. You're hitting it. You can see there's some going down, but it has so fucking much that you're gonna have to do 20 of these combos just to get through the shield. And it's like, bro, why? I mean, there's so many. I have so many problems with this game's combat. So first and foremost, the dodge mechanic, and I'm talking about the hit spacebar twice. So you probably played on controller.
You hit circle twice. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Hit it twice. It feels like there's a built-in delay that isn't like a B frame. In Elden Ring, you have B frames, and you have to be very aware of the B frames with dodging and with parrying and with shit like this. But it feels like the game it's like an animation break. It feels very clunky to dodge away. It's like you have to dodge early.
It sends
you just to actually get out of the way.
It sends you into a different zip code as well. Like you're dodging, you're like, whee! Here we go.
Yeah.
It's like,
you just go off.
I told
else.
people like the combat's it's a bit floaty, and people are like, what do you mean? I was like, what do you mean? Like, can you see that it looks like I'm ice skating in a ring right now every time that I'm moving? Gary was like, there's an animation for shield bashing where your character literally doesn't move his feet and he's just like sliding through the ground. And I'm just like, what the fuck is this?
There's another problem that I had. I'm sorry, guys. I'm eating macadamia nuts.
Yeah, these nuts.
Super nice.
These nuts.
Yeah. There's another problem with the combat in that exact same. The bosses have like 2 abilities that you have to escape. Almost every single boss that I've fought thus far. 2. And they just keep running after you.
Oh, here's another thing.
There's like no windows of attack. This is the nice thing about Elden Ring. Elden Ring bosses also doesn't have an overwhelming majority. It's not like you get a boss that has 200 animations and attack styles that you have to watch out for. They'll usually have like 2 or 3 attacks when you're close, 2 or 3 attacks when you're mid, and 2 or 3 attacks when you're far away from them, right? Yeah. Gap closers and shit like that. But the whole point of that is you have to learn when are the windows in which I can attack. So when are the windows in which I can attack and when are the windows where I have to move away? This game, it's like he does his thing and then he just immediately starts walking after you. Same speed always, just keeps chasing you all over the room. And you're just like, bro, this is boring as shit.
You want to hear?
It's so easy to dodge out of things.
You want to hear a really funny thing? Because I know you probably didn't use the shield, right? So you wouldn't know this.
No.
Guess. You know how when you block an attack in Elden Ring or other games, like there's usually a stamina system, so you put up your shield and they beat on your shield, and then eventually they're gonna break through.
Yeah.
Not in this game. You can just hold block and you're done. Unless they do one of those red attacks, that's unblockable. You just hold up block and that's it. Like I remember at one point, because I was testing this, that there were a bunch of archers and a bunch of like other little darkspawn dudes that were coming at my party. And I was like, these guys don't really have unblockable attacks. What would happen if I was to just hold my shield up the whole time in this fight? And what happened was I was just sitting there and they would come in, bang, bang, bang. And here's the other thing. Shield blocking is not directional. So if I'm holding my shield block here and somebody's attacking me in the back, I'm still blocking.
Wow.
So I was like, wait, what? I'm so used to Capcom games where it's like, no, you actually have to aim your blocks, or from software games where you have to aim your blocks. It's like, no, you just hold block and it blocks all 360 and there's no limit. And I was like, how is there no limit on blocking? Like, this is not smart. But yeah, basically my companions killed everything and I was just sitting there blocking.
Dude, that's the other problem. Your companions can't die. They have no health pools.
Yeah.
And in the old BioWare games, in all of the old Dragon Age games, you would have one companion that's a tank, another one that's maybe more like support, damage, heal, and then one or two that's like pure damage. In this one, who gives a shit if you have a tank? They will chase you all over the place no matter what.
That's because of the difficulty. The difficulty has an aggro setting. That's why you're getting targeted more than everybody else.
But that's so anti-RPG combat.
Now,
the whole point is
which now tells me
tanks.
Which now tells me that I remember seeing a lot of people say that mage was not really cool to play at the beginning. And then when I looked at the difficulty settings, I was like, well, considering that there's a player aggro setting, if you play on the harder difficulties, yeah, mage is gonna fucking suck, because even if you have melee people, they're still gonna chase you. Like these dark spawn that I was blocking. What was happening was none of them would target the people that were actually killing them. They would be targeting me despite me not being a threat. And I was like, this, because I like playing tanks, I'm like, this is going to be the best game ever for me because I'm always going to have aggro. I don't even have to work for it.
But you see, that's the problem. This game, you can tell that it's made by people who have never played Elden Ring, who's never played Monster Hunter. By the way, we're going to be talking about Monster Hunter.
Oh, yeah.
They've never played any of these games, so they don't understand the intricacies of making a game like this. People think making Elden Ring or Dark Souls is easy. What could be hard? It's just things attacking and you have to attack back. It is a skill.
Oh, yeah.
There is a reason why there are so many clones that don't work, because they don't get it right. You make one small timing mistake, just one B frame that's out of place, or you don't add a B frame in the right place for the right reason, and suddenly the combat just feels off. It feels like this isn't working.
But having said that, I should make one thing clear. I do enjoy the combat. There's a lot of stuff that is wrong with it, but I did enjoy some fights. I particularly enjoy what they decided to do with warriors, which is warriors are kind of just like wrestling characters. So, like, to give you an idea, I was fighting this first like mini boss looking thing, which is is one of the first ones that has more than one health bar. And I'm fighting him, and I don't really know what I'm doing still because I just got like my first skills unlocked, and I'm going through the motions, and I'm trying to like, okay, boom, 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 and I was like, all right, I have this cooldown that came up, and the boss is standing near a ledge. So the cooldown that came up is like, that wrestling move where they do the double kick? They just like jump into the air and with both feet slam the other person. So that's the first warrior move that you get. So I do that, and I just yeet the boss into the cliff. And I was like, wait, what? The boss was at like 50% on his health bar or something. She's like, gone. It's like, you're dead. That's awesome.
Winner.
So that to me is actually really funny, and I like that. And then the other thing that I thought was funny is when they unlock your ultimate for the first time. I was like, I got my ultimate. So I pressed the ultimate button. And, I'm playing this dwarven warrior, axe in one hand, shield in the other. What does he do with his ultimate? He sheathes both those things, starts punching the ground in front of the monster. Doesn't even punch the monster. He punches the ground. And what deals damage is the shockwaves that are coming out. It's like, bam, bam, bam. And then he jumps into the air and elbow drops the ground for a final slam. I'm like, it's funny as shit. I'm not going to take it too seriously, but it's really funny. So I do have fun with the combat. I think it's fun.
But I think here's where you're going to eventually realize what I realized. Because originally, I also thought the combat was really fun.
Yeah, I only played 5 hours.
The problem is,
that's the thing.
Yeah, it becomes monotonous.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because what you're experiencing now, you will experience in every single fight. Doesn't matter what fight it is. Doesn't matter who the enemies are. Exactly the same.
I can see it being fun because, again, one of the things that I will say in the game's favor is that these scenarios are beautiful, right? I think we can agree on that. Yeah. Like, you look visually, and so I can get myself very much immersed. Even if, right, you can just like look at the story and I don't like the story, but you're like, oh, but I'm a dwarf and I'm in this world right now and I'm doing this thing. Because again, there's just not that many RPGs that let me play as a dwarf. Yeah. So whenever I get to live out that fantasy, it's like, oh, I'm a dwarf and I got my shield and my sword and I'm beating up on dudes. Like, that is a very powerful thing because not that many games do that right. That's the problem. Like, the last one that I had is friggin' Baldur's Gate, right? Yeah. Baldur's Gate was last year, bro. Like, what the fuck? Yeah. That's the last time I got to play a cool dwarf. So as you can imagine, I don't get to do that very often. So the few games that I get where I get to live out my dwarf dwarven fantasies. I'm like, all right, it might not be the best game, but it's got a dwarf in it, and here we go.
Yeah. I agree with you, but that's actually one of my criticisms as well. The scenes, the landscape,
they look good.
Looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
The characters,
not so much.
Look completely out of place.
Yeah, they don't look.
They don't look like they completely fit.
Yeah.
The landscape.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is the most awkward art direction I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I don't like the art direction at all. I think the art direction of the character specifically, because like when you look at the art direction of the scenery and all of that stuff, I'm like, yeah, I'm in. I love this world. This looks fantastic. I'm having a good time. But then you look at the characters and I'm just like, why do I have a smooth Brazilian wax dwarf with a fucking mage beard and an elven haircut? It's like, oh, right, because they made dwarves, but they actually didn't give me any options as to how to make a proper fucking dwarf. Ugh.
The other problem, of course, is the art direction on the characters reduces all of the dramatic moments to almost cartoon instances. Like, no matter how dramatic the moment is, no matter how dramatic the conversation is, you look at these characters and it's very difficult to feel any sort of, whoa, this is dark, right? This is a big thing that happened.
Well, so like that almost goes into the whole writing thing that they kind of just like beat you over the head with. So my first example is right after you have the first Soulless confrontation that everybody's already seen in the trailer. Varric's all busted up and whatnot. And so the exact moment that you come out of that cutscene and your character's waking up and he's looking around and you look at Varric and you see him like all busted up. Varric starts speaking and you're immediately interrupted by a little pop-up that says, by the way, Varric is very disappointed in the fact that his relationship with Soulless wasn't enough to solve this particular situation. And I was like,
yeah.
What the fuck is this a game for people that watch TikTok? Like, what the fuck are we doing? You might as well give me like,
feels like it, right?
You should have given me like my phone SMS notification. Go like, it's just like would pop that thing, and you're thinking like, okay, I get it. Maybe this is something about the relationship of this character, whatever. But I was very taken aback when I saw the first one. But I was thinking to myself, maybe this isn't something that happens all the time, right? And I kid you not, literally the next scene, Harding comes in. She's all busted up. It's like, dude, by the way, Harding is very injured. And I was like,
not Harding, Nev.
No, that was for you. It depends on the choice that you make who gets injured. So if you take Nev with you, Nev gets injured. And if you take Harding with you, Harding gets injured. Which, again,
that makes sense.
Is one of those things where I was thinking, so there's no right choice. Somebody always gets fucking hurt, which it's one of those things where shouldn't there be like a choice that, gives you something different? It's like, no, if you choose this one gets busted up. If you choose that one, the other one gets busted up. But it's just like,
and they already,
why do you feel the need to tell me? Why do you feel the need to tell me that this character is injured? Like I can't see that her face is all fucking bruised up and she's walking with a limp. I can tell she's injured. My attention span is not that bad.
But they already nailed this in Mass Effect. For those of you who don't know, in Mass Effect 2, right at the end, there's a mission where you have to make a series of very important decisions as to who leads, because you have to make 2 teams, and there needs to be a leader for the team that you're not a part of. You're obviously the leader for your team.
Yeah.
And then you also have to choose an engineer to go into the venting ducts.
Yeah.
You make the wrong choice there, people die.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's actual consequences.
That's what happened to me, and like that's the reason why people are going to kill me for this. But I've never played Mass Effect 3 with Garrus alive because Garrus died in my playthrough of Mass Effect 2. So I accepted that. Hey, listen, that's a consequence, and that makes my playthrough different from somebody else's because I had to deal with the fact that Garrus fucking died, and I'm okay with that because that was what happened in my experience. I will say though that boiling down that the way that they handled that decision in Mass Effect, I also wasn't happy with because it wasn't about whether or not the character is the correct character to use in that situation. It was about whether or not your relationship level was the correct one with the character that you've chosen. And that was very disappointing for me. Because, for instance, my relationship with Jack was a piece of shit because I didn't like Jack, so I don't give a fuck. But the thing is, Jack is still supposed to be the most powerful bionic in the whole world, in the whole fucking universe. Yeah. That's the story I was told. So it's like when somebody tells me, you need somebody to hold the bionic shield, I'm like, this is the strongest bionic motherfucker in the galaxy, right here. Nobody can beat her. But apparently, because our relationship status wasn't optimal, she wasn't motivated enough to hold the shield, and then Garrus had to die. So fuck Jack. She's a piece of shit. I don't like her. But yeah, you know.
You see, I had
Samara do the shield? No, because the thing was, I had Samara take the hostages because I was like, if I send Jack with the hostages, she's not going to give a fuck. She's like, me? Hostages? I don't give
Miranda
a fuck about these people.
Yeah,
but I wanted to take someone that had like a shield capability so that they could shield the hostages. And Miranda, I don't think Miranda has biotic capabilities, or if she does, they're not particularly good. That was the reasoning. So I'm like, I'm gonna take this person who is already super protective because he's a justiciar or whatever she was, and she's gonna protect the hostages, and I'm gonna make the crazy psycho bitch do the shield because even if she fumbles with the shield, I'll be there to help out. That was my thought process. Turns out that wasn't the case, and Garrus got killed. So, yeah.
Wow. But they already did it. That's the point.
Yeah.
They knew how to do choices that actually matter.
Yeah.
In this game, the choices are basically playing out. And I think SkillUp said the same thing in his review. The choices you make will have differences, but it's basically just two sides of the same coin difference.
Yeah.
Either this one gets hurt or that one gets hurt. But someone gets hurt.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it. Dude, this entire game, and I don't want to waste too much time talking about this. We could probably be here for 2 hours.
You can't say this entire game. You've only played like 10 hours or something. Like, let's be fair.
Yeah, but this is the problem. I've done 8 hours.
Okay.
I can't do any more of it.
Then don't.
Because the whole 8 hours that I have played of it, I have not found anything that convinces me to keep playing. That's actually my biggest problem here. It's fine if a game isn't the best game ever. Guys, I play plenty of games where it's not the best game ever. But usually the thing is, every game will have something that you really like.
Yeah, see,
right?
and that
the
for
other
me,
things aren't that great, but
that for me is playing as a dwarf. That's what I really like about it. I want to play as a dwarf. I want to drop kick some people, and that's it. That's what I want to do.
I mean, that's great, but for me, I couldn't find anything to really like in this game. Because almost everything feels like it's doing something that other games do a hell of a lot better. And if I wanted to do that, I could just go play those other games.
While we're on this, I should also mention that one of the big turnoffs again in Character Creator was your character's background. Did you see the backgrounds? Because like what I was doing was I was looking at the different factions, and I was seeing the description of the factions, right? And I was like, oh man, I want to be one of these fortune lords or whatever it was, because it sounds like they're like rogues that are coming around collecting treasure and doing all this stuff. And it's like, that's what I want to be. I want to be a mercenary because that'll let me role play a morally gray character, which is it's just the type of character that I like to play in an RPG. So like, for instance, when I played Baldur's Gate, my dwarven bard was not like a goody two shoes. He was in there and he was like, I don't like this person. This person's got to go. It's that simple. So they got to go. And I would kill them. I would kill everyone that I wouldn't like. It's like, yep, you're dead. I don't give a fuck. And it's like, I would also help people, but it would be very much a morally gray character where I get to make every decision that I actually want rather than, oh no, I always have to save the innocent. I always have to protect the weak. I always have to help the poor. But like in an RPG, I like, making these weird decisions. So I'm looking at these different backgrounds that you can have for your character, and the treasure lords seemed like or fortune lords, whatever they're called, seemed like it was going to be the one that I was going to like the most. So I'm like, okay, I can probably roleplay morally gray character. He's going to be some dude that goes in and goes into tombs and steals stuff, and this sounds cool. So I click that. And I look at the description of the character, and they're like, you were doing a caper and things went wrong, and you had to take this decision where you sacrificed something to save all of these people. And it's like, wait a fucking minute. I'm a fucking looter of tombs. I'm supposed to be a roguish type character. I'm not a goody two shoes that sacrificed my loot for some people. As a matter of fact, I think it would have been amazing if I made a decision in the beginning of my character is reprimanded for making a decision that got people killed because of my greed. That's what I wanted. I wanted a morally ambiguous background. So I'm looking at these fortune lords like, wait, I'm a fucking goody two shoes. And then I go to the one that seemed like the most evil ones, which was the necromancers. It was the same thing. You're a goody two shoes. You're fighting for the resistance or whatever the fuck it was. This underground team, same thing. I was like, wait a minute. My character's a goody two shoes in every single fucking background. Like, what do we do? That's so dumb. You can't have a morally ambiguous background in an RPG.
So here's the thing. This is where I remember I told you, I will explain to you how it's the politics that causes the bad writing and the bad sort of just theme. When you're making a game that is supposed to be political theater, so you're very desperately trying to make political statements throughout the game. Trash's entire story is just that. It's one massive political activist piece. The last thing you can allow is for players to sort of get confused as to who are the good or the bad guys. So what you do is you write obviously Disney level bad guys for bad guys.
Oh god.
And you write the best of the bestest, goodest guys for your characters.
Yeah.
So that the audience knows at all times the goody guys make the goody choices and the baddie guys make the baddie choices.
That's always been the thing about these types of RPGs, which is why I said, like, this is more of a linear, this is like a God of War, basically. You don't really have that much agency. You're just a good guy. That's it. You're a good guy. That's doing good things. And I know that I say, oh, Kratos, nice guy Kratos, that beats people to a pulp. But if you really think about it from a moral standpoint, yes, Kratos is kind of like the morally correct character in the latest iterations of God of War.
But
like
the beauty of Kratos is the fact that Kratos has incredible depth to his character.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's the point that I'm making. In this game, you're just a good guy. That's it. You're a good guy, and that was one of the things that SkillUp said. You're just a good guy, and there's nothing else to it. Whereas in Baldur's Gate, you could do the most heinous shit. You could backstab people, and the thing is, you weren't forced down either path. You can do this thing or you can do that thing. And I know that a lot of people always say that, like, oh, Baldur's Gate set unrealistic expectations. Like, no, motherfucker, you could do this back in Dragon Age Origins. You could be a bad guy if you wanted to. You could do this in Mass Effect. You could be a bad guy if you wanted. You can play a renegade. As a matter of fact, I actually think that Mass Effect also did it wrong in a way, because you are usually rewarded for either going super deep into the bad guy path or super deep into the good guy path. And if you were going down the middle, you would actually be penalized, which I also think it's not the best way. But it was still better than whatever the fuck this is, because it's always like, you're a good guy and you're a good guy and you're a good guy. And you're not the only good guy. Everybody around you is a good guy. Everybody that you're working with is a good guy. There doesn't seem to be any morally gray characters. There's nobody who has like ulterior motives. Everybody's just like, no, we're all in it together to save the world. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Sure.
You asked whether or not the bosses can misgender people. I saw a scene from one of the boss interactions with Trash's storyline where the boss correctly refers to her as they.
I'm sure that was like the top of that boss's priority was to let me make sure that the boss probably had a conversation with Tash ahead of time where they were like, okay, so what are your pronouns again? Okay, good. I want to make sure that I get that right. Right as I'm preparing to kill you and all of your friends and insult you and demoralize you, the one thing I will not do is misgender you. Come on.
And even the enemies that you fight, a lot of the enemies, even if it is just one enemy, the voice lines about those enemies will also be they, them. They won't gender them, he, she. It's they, them. So it's like, dude, the game is just so riddled with the nonsense.
The final complaint that I have This is actually, and again, I want to make one thing perfectly clear. Despite all of this, I am going to play more of this game because, like I said, I like the combat and I like being immersed in the world as a dwarf.
You're a better man than me. I will not be playing this shit. I will not be playing.
I'm going to play at least a bit more. Like 5 hours wasn't enough to get to a point where I was like, all right, this fucking blows. I hate it. It was more like, oh, I'm actually having fun with this combat. I don't like this
I just bought
riding.
Vampire Survivors before we started this podcast. I will be playing that.
I mean, Vampire Survivors is hella good. But
I've never played it.
I'm actually... Okay, so I'm going to say this one thing, and then I want to ask you something else about Veilguard. But
yeah.
the another thing that really bothered me, and this is again about the writing, is you know how you have all of those options in the dialogue wheel?
Yeah.
And one of the options is supposed to be the jokester, where you're like you're supposed to be making jokes of all the situations. I don't know if it's because of the voice that I chose for my character. I don't know if it's because of the race of my character. I don't know if it's because of the background of my character. But every single time I chose the joke option, my character was dead serious. And I was like,
yeah,
what the fuck? Like he hasn't said a single joke. I got to a point where I was like, well, if you're just going to be that serious, I'll just use the dead serious option there. Because I mean, you're not going to let me role play as making jokes. So I'm going to have to be the dead serious guy, I guess.
But even the dead serious guy
it made me
isn't
wonder,
dead serious.
It made me wonder, why is that dialogue option even there? There was one point where I chose the one that's like the teary-eyed one, which I'm assuming is my character. Like, oh my God, you're so hurt. Oh no.
Yeah, he's
and
crying. He's sad now.
And my character just goes like, all right, I need you to stay behind. And I was like, wait, what? That was it? Aren't you going to like express how sad you are because she's hurt and shit like that? No, all right, I need you to stay behind. That's it. And I was like, that's the crying eye option. Okay, it makes sense considering that the joking option also doesn't mean anything. So whatever.
That dialogue wheel used to mean something.
Yeah,
like it had actual meaning.
Anything.
It has no meaning. Doesn't matter what you choose, your guy is never going to actually be angry or a piece of shit. Never actually going to be, because that laughy face used to be either sarcasm or like making light of the situation. So you're not taking it so seriously. That's gone.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting. I was like, let's do the sarcasm option. I love seeing the sarcasm option. There was in the first 5 hours of the game, there's fucking nothing. At least for my straight male dwarf character, there's nothing.
Yeah. I will say there's another problem. You just reminded me of it. Bala. Oh, bro. I hate
Balara? The Arcanist?
Oh, go. Yeah, the Asian elf.
Yes. What's wrong with her?
Hate that character to the bottom of my core. I cannot stand her. If I could kill her, I would do it. Raise her and kill her again. We inform Bala that 2 of her gods escaped and are now looking to destroy the world. She continues to mouth off line after line of Avengers level comedy delivered at like 20% of the effectiveness. It's not funny.
Yeah,
it's not like in the actual Avengers movies where, you know, the comedy and the comedic timing actually works. Here, their ideas will get you to laugh by the sheer volume of jokes that we're going to be telling.
Jokes per second.
Every line out of her mouth. Yeah. It's literally a jokes per second thing. Every line out of her mouth is a joke. And it's like, listen here, bitch. This is serious. Your gods have escaped. They're about to destroy the world. Could you take it serious for a second? Like, could you actually pretend like this matters?
I think it might be because I wanted the jokester option so much that when I saw it in another character, I was like, all right, at least I got something out of that. I don't know.
I hated it, bro.
But so the other question that I wanted to make you is, so did you buy the game? Or did somebody buy it for you from your chat? Of course. Yeah, that's what I figured. Somebody from your chat.
I didn't buy the game. No. I did the mature thing. I subscribed for $15.
Oh, God. You're disgusting.
No.
You disgust me, Akalon. I can't believe you would do that.
I subscribed for $15.
No.
I downloaded the game. Before I even logged in, I unsubscribed immediately.
Disgusting.
And then I logged into the game and I played it.
You're disgusting.
Dude, I am winning. I didn't give them $60. I didn't even give them 50. I didn't give them 40. I didn't give them 30. I gave them 15. 1.5, and that's it.
I didn't give them anything.
Someone bought it?
No, I got a review code.
Oh, they gave it to you for free, yeah.
And it was funny because of disclosure, people thought that I was being sponsored by EA to Play. And I was like, no, it's just you have to disclose when you get a code. And I would disclose it even if I didn't have to, because I always do whenever I get a code. But it was funny to see that everybody was just assuming, oh, Rurikhan's got bought off by EA. Oh, I can't believe it. It's like, no.
I didn't get a key. I have to either buy it or do it this way.
Yeah.
I felt like this way is the least amount of money I can give them.
I thought that somebody in your chat would have bought it for you.
No, somebody in my chat did offer, and I said, no, thank you. I don't want you to give them $60. So I got to play the game for $15. I felt like it was not worth it. But at least it did get 60 out of me. So I'm pretty happy at the end of the day.
I will want to report back on it later once I get more time on it. I'll want to talk more about it in the podcast. But for now, I'm just like, hey, I get to be a dwarf. There's not a lot of games let me be a dwarf. That part is fun of it. But yeah, everything else that we talked about, I don't like the writing. I don't like my fucking smooth Brazilian wax dwarf with an elven haircut. I don't like the dialogue choices. I don't like the story hasn't really caught up to me either. It's like there's a million different things that I don't like about it. But I get to be a dwarf and drop kick people in the face. That part's fun.
Yeah. I will say, if you're one of the people that actually do like this game, good for you. I'm happy that you have a game that you can play. I do not share that view. But with that said,